Arthur's got his hand up.
I have a question for Jonathan. Oh, Jonathan Godfrey. Um, Concerning the math, you talked about the accessibility through the HTML, but then I think about the math, and I'm wondering um, what avenue is followed when there's math that you need to
The
think about.
default processing of math through Markdown is now MathJax. So it's as good as I'm going to get through any other solution. Without blowing my own trumpet too loudly, would be one thing that I think I've influenced with a conference presentation I gave about the various ways that Pandoc could process equations. Markdown was already using the LaTeX representation with single and double dollars, and the various ways that Pandoc could process that into readable or unreadable expressions in HTML was one thing that I wanted to raise in the R community, and I'm pleased that Ihui and others have embraced MathJax as a consequence. I would say that they have mainly embraced MathJax because of the tools that MathJax offers the sighted world, not because of anything I said, but certainly, you know, in one of his online tools, Ihui mentions me and me showing him how my computer was reading what his tools were creating. That was 2014. So I know there is consideration of our needs. I know, for example, that in the last 6 months, the default way that our Markdown created alt tag text in the HTML, someone decided it wasn't good enough. They wanted to actually have a little bit more control over it. Ihui fixed it. So we now have an option in our Markdown to put a caption on a figure and have different text that is the alt tag that the blind people will be reading. That means that my own work in describing graphs, I now have an automatic way to get that alt text generated so that for the blind user, they will get an automatically generated description of quite a lot of graphics. There's some work to go in that space, but that's the plan.
I'm nodding my head vigorously as you speak, Jonathan. I just want to report to you. Yeah. So, yeah, I appreciate your words in that connection. And this is very exciting for me. You know, I have a reflection about, and if Nelson's still able to hear this, he'll appreciate it too, because he and I were both there at the same time with Leslie Lamport. Leslie talked about the future of LaTeX, and this was in I'm thinking 1984, Santa Barbara Tug Conference, but I'm not sure I can trust my memory. And in any case, it seems to me like the way the future of LaTeX panned out is now starting to look more like what Lamport described back then. But it doesn't look as much like it as, well, people like me implemented it or conceived it. And I realize now that the measure, the standard by which this kind of thing needs to be evaluated has to do with accessibility, and that's exactly what Lamport was talking about in his talk. at the TUG conference there. He was talking about issues in connection with creating the document creator, but then perhaps he wasn't so focused on people having accessibility to the document as readers, as consumers. But then I'm delighted to see that that's exactly what we're looking at now, and I'm just pleased as all get out. So thank you. Um, I don't see anybody from our studio present in the conversation any longer, but that's what I want to thank the community.
So I think one of the with I talked about the ease of use before, but with that ease of use in of the tools in our Markdown, the ability for people to contribute to the development it also exists. Yeah, in reality, to write your own package in LaTeX is not trivial. Some people might describe it as damn hard and only good for geeks. But the ability to write a package in R has been made so easy and so simple that we could be throwing the problem at undergraduate students. We don't, because there's only so much time. But we could be asking or expecting them to put everything they develop for something, a project, into a package. But that means that you've then got thousands and thousands of people contributing in a tools that other people will use in the community. And so the development community would include thousands of people who wouldn't call themselves developers, because that's sort of, to be a developer, you've got to be someone like an Ihwe. Well, I'm on that cusp. I wouldn't call myself a developer, but I know that the tools that I need for myself are tools that other blind people need as well. So, because I share my work, that sort of automatically means that I'm definable as a developer. So I think there's some massive wins there. The RStudio developments, plural, are not just in the IDE. So the IDE front end that is RStudio uses packages that are sit outside of RStudio, because RStudio, the IDE, was not embraced as quickly as some of the tools that is making RStudio quite the tool of preference today. And for the blind people in a classroom setting or in a work environment, we don't have the luxury of using RStudio at this point in time. But we do get the benefit of all the tools that RStudio relies upon through these R packages that Ihwe and others are developing.
Jonathan, I'd like to ask you, you said use this turn of phrase, developing a package for LaTeX is damn hard and what?
I suggest that it's only left to the geeks, really.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm one of those geeks, so I totally get what you're saying, and you're right.
I've tweaked a style template. It was actually for my doctoral thesis. I took the work that someone else had, and I spent half or a whole day trying to tweak it so that it worked for my particular university's guidelines and regulations. And at that point, we were we were just moving from a thou shalt print on only one side of the paper set of regulations to you can, if you like, use two sides of the paper. History's a funny thing when you look back at it at times, but I had to be the one who set up for my for statistics and mathematics students. I had to be the one, happened to be the one who needed the two-sided version first. Mathematics graduate students didn't mind having to print on one side of the page with a 150-page thesis to 200-page thesis. Yes, it was a fat volume, but at 300 plus pages, my thesis was going to look awful if it was printed on one side of the paper. So, I was motivated to do that development of the style files and the class, something or other else I had to edit and tweak. Heaven forbid ever contemplating doing that from scratch.
Yeah, I know a lot of LaTeX developers, so yeah, I understand that picture. Thanks for recounting your experience, Jonathan.